Hello and welcome to an Edexcel iGCSE Computer Science Past Paper question. This is 2024, the Paper 2 Practical, and total marks out of 80. All the files you need are linked to in the description. I'm using VS Code to program this. I'll put a link to the website in the description where you can download that free of charge. I code this in Python. So take the time to read this through carefully in your exam and make sure you check the correct box. I'm going to be checking the Python box here. So we'll get started on the first question, but before I do, as always, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please share the video with people who need it. Thank you very much. Question 1. Programmers write programs to solve problems. A. Programs use many different techniques and tools to solve problems. Identify what is meant by the term abstraction. Is it A. Breaking a problem down into smaller, more manageable parts? B. Deciding if a program is efficient in terms of execution time? C. Drawing flowcharts with symbols used in the computer industry? Or D. Removing unnecessary detail to highlight important points? It is, of course, D, removing unnecessary detail. It's not A because A is decomposition. So abstraction is D. So our first coding activity, open Q01B. A user enters the name and age when the program executes. The program should display a welcome message when the user is less than 30 years of age. Amend the code to complete the program and save it as Q01B finished. So the first thing you should do is save it and put the caps lock on, save it as Q01B finished. So I have done that, and make sure it's in the correct folder, because at the end of the exam all the files are going to be scooped up and taken away as part of your finished exam. Now in VS Code, make sure you've got the correct extension. You need to have the Python language support there, IntelliSense. That's really going to help you in the exam. So having that, it's already highlighted in red a potential problem with my code. So to initialize an empty string, I need the quotation marks there. So my name equals empty string, and what those quotation marks means is it's an empty string. So add a line to create an integer variable called my age, initialize it to be 0. So press the space there, and my caps lock's still on, but IntelliSense is helping me with the code. So my age equals 0. So initialize my age to be 0. Name equals input, that looks okay. My age equals int input, that looks okay. It's an integer, and this was initialized to be 0, so it's going to be an integer. It's not a real, it's not a floating point. Complete the test to check if the age is less than 30. So my age something 30, so it's already underlined that in red. There's a problem with that. So I need to put a condition in there, my age less than 30, and add a line, press the tab, OK, to display a message that says welcome, no exclamation mark. So we can run this code here. Now I had a bit of a problem with that. It wouldn't run, so I needed to tick the box that said to trust the project. So enter my name. Okay, let's test out the condition, less than 30, welcome. Okay, run it again. So put that in, and then we'll put an age in there, so nothing should happen. Okay, that's finished, that works. So we'll close that and move on to Q01C. Open Q01C in the code editor. Here is Q01C. It's important to have or to be aware of the lines. So one thing that using VS Code does is it numbers all the lines of code which you're going to need. So give the text of a comment used in the code. So go back here, we can have any of those. So we could have that loop for 50 times. So I'm just going to save time, just going to copy and paste that in there. So that's a comment. If we see the hash symbol, it's a comment. Number 2, give the text of a line that creates and initializes a variable. So if we go and look at our code there, count equals 0, be quite a good one to take. Put that in there. That's the text there. Give the keyword that starts the selection used in the code. So that is if there, that starts the selection. Selection always starts with if. 4, Give the logical operator used in the code. So logical operator there. And D, arrays and records are data structures. Identify the data that must be stored in a record rather than array. A record is a mixed data structure, so you're looking for text and numbers there, integers. So we've got not only integers, we've got real floating point there as well. So the correct answer is B. The rest are all suitable for an array because they're the same data type. E, complete the table to show the data type for each item. So 45.82, what data type is it? It is real or floating point. And then true, what data type is that? It's either true or false, and that is of course Boolean. And that completes question 1 for a total of 12 marks. Question 2. Programmers design, correct and test programs. Programmers design programs. Identify the term for a step-by-step description to complete a task. Is it A, algorithm, B, computational thinking, C, decomposition, or D, pseudocode? It is of course an algorithm, which is a step-by-step set of instructions to solve a problem with a finite number of steps. There's usually a question that is very similar to that in most exams. 2. A constant is a memory location whose value does not change during program execution. Give the name for a memory location whose value can change during program execution. It is of course a variable. B. Programs can have runtime errors. State what is meant by a runtime error. The program unexpectedly crashes. Remember, there's 3 types of errors: syntax error, runtime error, and logical error. Runtime error is with the program, it crashes. Give one example of a runtime error. An example is an expected file is not found, so the program expects to load a file and it's not in the location that's specified in the program. So that could be a runtime error. C. Open Q02C in the code editor. The program generates a random number for the width of the rectangle. Length of rectangle is always 4. The program should calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. The program should display width, length and perimeter of the rectangle. There are 3 errors in the code. Amend the code to correct the errors. Save it as Q02C finished. So here is Q02C. Now having the Visi code really helps here because we can initially see a problem with that. So length equals 4. We need to delete that semicolon there. It's already highlighted some potential issues. Width equals random.randint, and then this is missing a comma, so we need to add that comma in here, 1,5. So let's save it and run it. It's not quite producing the outcome, so the problem here, that should be multiplication. So run that again, and that is the program finished. D. Figure 1 shows part of an online form displayed in a browser. Complete the table to show 2 examples of erroneous, 1 example of normal, and 1 example of boundary test data for the memorable word field. Each example must be different, so you need to complete 2 examples of erroneous data. So our memorable word between 2 and 8 letters. So erroneous could be 1 letter. It could also be greater than 8, so I could add 9 letters in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 letters in there, and that's erroneous. Normal could be 2 letters, but I'm going to just make that 3 because I don't want that to be boundary, so boundary would be 2 letters, or 8. And that completes question 2 for a total of 11 marks. Question 3. Programs use logic, display data and validate input. The truth table shows initial values for A and B. Complete the truth table to show the results of each operation. So we've got A or B. So 0 or 0 is 0, 0 or 1 is 1, 1 or 0 is 1, 1 or 1 is 1. Now not B. So B is knotted. So zeros become ones, ones become 0. So that is 1, 0, 1, 0. Now we've got A or B and not B. So A or B needs to be 1. ANDed with not B, which also needs to be 1. So that makes that 0 there, 0 there, 1, It's A or B and not B, and then 0 there. Okay, B. Figure 2 shows the intended output from a program that displays every other name in an array of star names. In Q03B, amend the code to display every other name in the array of star names. So to loop through every element in this array, so I just got caps lock on there, just turn caps lock off. So for I in range, and then specify the range, so the start, the stop, and the increment. So start position is 0, the len of star name, and the increment is 2. Now I need to print that off. I must to print that off. So print, comma, so print star names I. So if we run that and see what happens. And I've given myself a syntax error. I didn't put a colon there. So just double check things like that. Okay, so it should print Elasia, Castor, Electra, etc. down to Ogma. So we'll just check that we've got that. Yep, Castor, that works. So that is my completed program. So to print out every element in an array, I use a for loop. I need to specify the start, the stop, which is the middle one, and then, if applicable, the increment. So in this case, I wanted every other, so I needed to put in there 2. You can also have the start at the end of the array, and you can decrement. So instead of a positive integer, that would be a negative integer, to decrement through each element in the array. C. A program validates a number input by the user. Figure 3 shows the output messages based on the inputted number. So we've got input there and the output. Open Q03C, amend the code to ensure the messages are generated correctly. Do not add any other functionality. So this is Q03C, and you can see that I've already saved that as Q03C, finished, ready to go. So you can see lots of missing parts to this, and because of this, using Python language support, IntelliSense, that really helps us with the coding here. So I need to take a string input. So a string equals input, and again, caps lock is on, so take caps lock off, otherwise that will be a syntax error. Okay, so please enter a string. Now the data type will default to string, so that doesn't need to, we don't need to have anything in there. That's going to be a string. Complete the selection statement. A string not equal to empty then, so that is going to be an if. If a string not equal to empty, convert the string to an integer. So some casting involved here. Anum equals int, so what to convert to an integer? A string. So that will convert that into a string. If anum is greater than 0, complete the test. So here we go back to the question. So number greater than 0, 1 to 20 acceptable, etc. So I want the acceptable there. So you can see we've got space for an and in there as well. So acceptable is 1 to 20 or 60 or more. So do the 60 or more, greater than or equal to 60, and that we should say what should be greater than or equal to 60, or we could just do greater than 59. I'll put greater than or equal to 60, or between 1 and 20. So it's already going to be greater than 0, so I know it's going to be at least 1 anyway. So if anum less than or equal to 20. Now what's the operator that needs to go in here? Now this can be an or because, not an and, because it's going to be greater than 0 anyway. It's going to be less than 20 or greater than 60, and there's the upper bound is greater than 60. So that will work. So now we need the next one, complete the test, elif. So the next one is, so send 31 to 39. So the test there is anum greater than or equal to 31 and less than or equal to 39. So you need to put anum again. So for each test that needs to be in there. And I'm going to put an and in here. Now why an and, not or? Because I want it exactly between these ranges. So if I said greater than or equal to 31, then that would be any number greater than or equal to 31. So that would also include 60, greater than 60, which is wrong. It has to be exactly between these two ranges. So anum less than or equal to 39, and that is center. So the next test, perfect, 30. So elif anum is equal to, remember the double equals sign there, otherwise you're assigning a variable, 30. Perfect. So I'll test it out by running it. So always run your program, even if you just test a few numbers in there. So try 23, so no message. Let's try 19, for example, and I should be able to get acceptable. Yep. Okay, so that completes that question there for a total of 13 marks. So this is a completed program here. Make sure you're clear about the use of or and in this condition here, conditional operators or and what the difference is between the two in programming, because part of the specification is not to learn about them in terms of logic gates, you also need to understand their use in programming as well. Question 4. Programmers write code that keeps track of values, is efficient and uses subprograms. A. Global variables are different from local variables. State where a global variable is created. A global variable is created in the main program, so the main body of the code. 2. State where a local variable is accessible. Within the subprogram it's declared in. B. An algorithm reports the range that an integer falls within. Integers from 0 to 39 are in the low range, 40 to 69 in the middle range, and 70 to 100 are in the high range. So here we see an algorithm, and very helpfully all lines of code have been numbered. So an input received from integer keyboard, if the number is less than 40, low range, else if the number, so we've got nested if, lines 6 to 10. If the number is less than 70, then middle range, else anything else is high range, end if, end if. So that's figure 4. Then we've got figure 5 here. So enter an integer to display, receive the number from integer keyboard. If the number is less than 40, then send low range to display, end if. If the number is greater than 39 and the number less than 70, then middle range, end if. If the number is greater than 69, then high range. So a question here, explain the reason that the algorithm in figure 4 is more efficient than the algorithm in figure 5. Well, the key reason, if you look at number 5, there's lots of comparisons there. So there's 3 comparisons. Number 4, there are far fewer comparisons, because it simply uses logic in that if the number is not less than 40, not less than 70, then it's going to be high range, whereas figure 5 still checks that anyway. Some amounts are just looking at particularly at lines 9 and 10 there, which show that figure 4 is more efficient because it doesn't need to make that comparison, because if it's already failed the first 2 tests, if they're both false, then we can assume that it is a high range number. C. A program is required to create a new key. It takes 2 inputs. The first is a 4-character string. The second is a whole number. The key is constructed by joining the first 2 characters from the string, the number, and the final 2 characters from the string. When the user enters a 4-character string A, B, C, D, and the integer 1, 2, 3, the program must construct and display the new key A, B, 1, 2, 3, C, D. Open Q04C and amend the code to complete the subprogram to construct the new key. Complete the call to the subprogram and save it as Q04C finished. So here I have Q04C open in VS Code. We've gone ahead and saved it. So here on lines 3 to 6 we can see our subroutine def gen new key, and we can see the parameters passed in pstring pnum. Now where's the call to gen new key. There isn't one, so that's our job to write that there. So we'll go through the bullet points and complete them. So complete the subprogram to construct the new key. So this new key, this subprogram should construct the new key. So what we need to do is create a substring of pstring and store it in new key. So to avoid using new variables where we can, we're just going to store everything in this. So I need to say 0:2. That takes a substring, first two characters, 0, 1 of my string. Now just realized I should have written the code below that line, so I'll just cut and paste this to here. So now I need to concatenate that with, so new key equals new key, so all I've done already, otherwise I'm going to overwrite what I've done already. New key, so what I've already got, concatenated with. Now if I'm going to use concatenation, I need to use casting here. I need to convert pnum into a string. So say string and then pnum. That's called casting. So I've done a type conversion there. Otherwise I would not be able to concatenate it. So don't forget that to be able to concatenate a string, so to be able to join two strings together, I need to use the plus symbol, and all the characters need to be string. If they're integer, that plus symbol won't work, the concatenation won't work. So now what I need to do is take all that lot and I need to add. So if we go and look at the exam question, it says second input is a whole number, done that. So first two characters from the string, the number, and the final two characters from the string. So that's what I need to do next. So now I need to add to that, so new key, so everything that I've done already plus p string, and I need to say the final two characters there. Okay, so that's created my string. Then I need to return new key, so that needs to go back to the calling code. So my next job is to call the subroutine. So my new key equals, and this is where I need to specify, so gen new key, okay, call subroutine gen new key, pass what into that? Well, pstring and the number, but they're not called pstring because I'm using positional arguments. It's actually called my string, and my number, which is called my number. So because we've got positional arguments, they don't match what is passed into that subroutine, but they are the same. So my string is pstring, my number is pnumber because they're in the correct position. So here's my finished program with my subroutine, and I've tested that it works. I've entered a string, whole number, and it's produced a new string. Use cases of this could be, for example, for creating usernames and passwords. So that completes question 4 for 10 marks. Question 5. Programmers refine algorithms, use searches and read data from files. Figure 6 shows an algorithm that determines whether an animal name inputted by the user is found. So I'm going to read through all of this code, but you can see what's happening there. You've got A1 to alpaca, A2 to bear, etc. And then you've got the selections there. The user's asked to input an animal, and the comparisons are done there, found or not. Okay, so explain one improvement to this algorithm that will reduce the number of variables required and will enable it to work with any number of animals. So we've got 4 variables there, A1 to 4. You could replace all of that with an array and it would be much more efficient. When you create variables, you're using memory locations. So being able to create one variable, i.e. an array, rather than 4, uses less memory and makes the code more efficient. B. Binary search is a divide and conquer algorithm. Here's a list of data. So we've got a list of data here, 10 to 20, and one thing we need to note is that the data is in order, so the binary search will work. A binary search is used to check whether number 11 is in the list. The midpoint is calculated by adding the high index to low index and integer dividing by 2. Complete the table to show the values for the high index, the low index, and the midpoint on each pass of a binary search. You may not need to use all the rows. So our high index is, so we've got 10 elements in the array. Our high index is 9. If you were to put 20 there, you still get the mark. It would be accepted. But technically speaking, the index is 9 and the low end index there is 0. So it's 10. So integer division by 2 gives us 4. Our midpoint is 4. Remember, an integer division ignores the remainder and rounds it down. So yes, 9 divided by 2 is 4.5, but that would be rounded down to 4. So now our midpoint there was 4, is 15. So our high index now, so all these numbers are now ignored because they're greater than 11. Remember, divide and conquer divides the list down. So our high index is now 3 and our low index is 0. So 3 integer divided by 2 gives us 1. Remember, again, it's rounded down. It's not 1.5, it's rounded down to 1. So now our midpoint is 1, which is 12. So because that is greater than 11, that is now ignored. So our high index now is 0. Our low index is 0. Because we've done the 1, we're working on this one here. And our midpoint is 0. So remember, divide and conquer divides the list down and discounts all the numbers that are greater than or less than, in either case, the number that we're looking for. C. Figure 7 shows a sales.txt file. It stores sales information. A program is required to calculate and display subtotal for each line of sales, a grand total for all the sales in the file. So intended output from the program. So subtotal for each line of sales, so 264 plus 140 plus 120 plus 284 plus 192. So all those numbers added together gives us 1,000, then 2,000, 3,000 and so on. And then the grand total is 15,000 with all those numbers added together. Open Q05C in the code editor, amend the code to produce the intended output. So to complete this, you need to follow the prompts that are given on screen. So the file equals open, and then I need to specify what file it is I'm opening. So input file has already been assigned to, sales.txt has already been assigned to input file. Otherwise, I'd need to put sales.txt there and specify how do I want to open that. It's either write, append, or read. In this case, for reading, so I need R for reading that in. So line 12, complete the code to read each line of the input file. So for line in the file. Line 15, complete the code to split the line into a set of 5 strings. So the string sales equals line and dot split, so using the function split, but I need to say what to split it on. Comma's already been defined as comma, so that's where I need to split the line. Line 19, add code to sum up each value in the set of 5 strings. So a for loop, so for sale, or it could be for I in string sales colon. So what should I do here? Well, subtotal, which has already been set to 0, equals subtotal plus int sale. Now, got some casting going on there, type conversion, and I put capital S, that should be lowercase s there. Line 23, add code to display the subtotal for the line. So I want to print my subtotal. So print as a string, subtotal. 26, add code to calculate the running total. So already given a variable called grand total, and I need to use this here. So grand total equals grand total plus subtotal. And then line 29, add code to display the total of all lines in the file. So print here, grand total. You could use f string here. So I've used a function string, so I don't need to worry about what the variable type there is. But you could use and then convert grand total to a string to print that off. Use concatenation. Finally, and this needs to be done on every program that opens a file, a text file, it needs to be closed. So complete the code to close the open file. So the file dot close. So every time you open a file, you must close it, otherwise it won't be added to that, it won't work. So run that, Now it's in restricted view, I'll just take it out. So remember, using VS Code, we need to click Manage, and you must trust the project, otherwise it won't be able to run. Now I've got a problem, it cannot find the file, so I need to make sure it is in the correct folder. So I sorted that out and now it works, and that completes question 5 for a total of 14 marks. Question 6. Now at the end of the exam, the paper 2 practical exam, there is always a 20-mark question. This question is testing your coding abilities. So you're given very little in terms of skeleton code, and everything you need to do is in the bullet points. So you're expected to show your coding skills. Now, it's not a case of you need to do everything, it's all or nothing, otherwise you don't get the 20 marks. For each bullet point you do, you achieve. So if we see the bullet points here, I'll go through them in a second, but for each one of those, you're getting marks. So you must attempt it. Even if you know your programming abilities are not that strong, you must attempt this question. You must have a go at it. You must try and do some coding. So what we've got here is a program stores pairs of words in a two-dimensional array. Remember, 2D array, rows and columns. 1D array is just the row. With a 2D array, it's like a table. Each word in a pair starts with a different letter. Each pair of words should be in alphabetical order, but some are not. The last pair in the array is an empty pair. The program must replace the final blank pair of words with the variables word 1 and word 2. Display the pair number of each pair followed by each word in the pair without punctuation. Display the longer word in the pair indented. Display any pair found not to be in alphabetical order, indented without punctuation. Figure 9 shows the intended output from a functional program. So we've got apple, banana, wrist, leg, wrist, leg, wrist there. So it displayed the pair, but in alphabetical order. Open Q06. Your program should function correctly even if the number of pairs in the array is changed. Your technique should make your code easy to read, so you need to see some comments in there. Save your amended code as Q06 finished with the correct extension. So here's our program. So we'll get started on the coding, and what I'll do is take each of these points in turn and code them. To start with the first point, replace the final blank pair of words with the variables word 1 and word 2. So TBL words minus 1, so the last element equals word 1, word 2. So make sure you save it and you can run that there. So take the next bullet point, display the pair number of each pair followed by each word in the pair without punctuation. So I'm going to iterate over each pair in the list using a count controlled loop, so a for loop to iterate over each one, then create a variable called pair number. So for pair in table words, W1, a variable called W1, a variable called W2 equals pair. So display the pair number in words, that needs de-indenting. So print using an F string, function string, pair number, word 1, word 2. Now display the longer word, indented. So if len W1 is greater than len W2, print W1. Elif len W2 is greater than len W1, print W2. So if the first word is greater than the second word, then that's the greatest. That's the longer word. If it's the other way around, then it's the second word. So if the pair is not in alphabetical order, display it in order, indented. So if W1 is greater than W2, print sorted, and then W1, W2 to display that in order. And then finally, increment the pair number. So pair number equals pair number plus 1, or pair number plus equals 1. So if we run the code, we can see our output. So just check it against that. So we've got a number, apple, banana, banana, should look like that. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, apple, banana, banana, wrist, leg, wrist. Looks okay. Pair 3, blue, yellow, yellow. Yeah, that's working. Pair 4, speaker, keyboard, keyboard, speaker. Yeah, keyboard, speaker. Yeah, that should come there like that. Then we've got our other pairs there, snow, fog, etc. And that completes the program. So if we go and have a look at this, so the program should function correctly even if the number of pairs in the array is changed. Yeah, if I added more pairs to this, then that would work, because when we look at, for example, line 22, it's not referring to a specific element in the array, so I haven't counted this. So it goes up to 10 there, and I've said that that is 10, that's -1. So if I add more elements to this array, then it's always going to replace the final blank pair with word 1 and word 2, because it's the end of the array, -1. So I haven't specifically said the actual index, I've just said the end of the array. So that fulfills that point there. You should use techniques to make your code easy to read. Yeah, that is comments and indentation and sensible variable names. And save it as Q06 finished. Now, and you've got some space here for planning if you need to. So you could do flowcharts there if you want to, or some pseudocode. So the key takeaways from this: you must attempt the 20-mark question. You must have a go at it. Can't just say, coding isn't my strength, I'm not going to try it. For each of these points that you get right, you'll get marks. So if we go and look at the mark scheme here, for each one of these that you get right, there's a mark, to a total of 11. So even if you don't achieve all of them, you're getting some marks out of 11. So that is marks for the functionality, A1 to A10, the functionality of the program, and at least one instance of an informative comment. So as long as you write some comments in there, then you're going to tick that box as well. And every mark is important. Then up to 9 marks for this section here. So that is code is clear and readable. Problem has been decomposed. The logic is clear. So we can do that through the comments in our code. Finished program could be used with other datasets or inputs. So that is the other point that I went back to here. So what does that mean? The program should function correctly even if the number of pairs in the array is changed. Program fully meets given requirements. Program meets most of the given requirements. Program meets some of the given requirements. So say you only achieved about 4 of these, but you put some comments in and it looked like you attempted to structure your code logically, then you're going to salvage some marks from that. So up to potentially 3 marks plus 4, 7 marks out of the 20, which is quite a lot. So you must have a go at this. But what I'd recommend is, if the program isn't working, at least get some of the bullet points to work. So if you come to the end of the exam, you can't get them all, just comment out the code and get some of these points to work. And at least you can show evidence to the examiner that you've had a go and you've got some of these bullets to work and the program does work with that. I'd recommend, if you can, allowing at least an hour for this question. So you get 3 hours. So that is a third of your allowance. So 33%, which is quite a lot for a 20-mark question. But it's worth allowing that time, if you can, to attempt to get this code to work. Attempt as many of the bullet points as you can, get them to work before moving on to the next bullet point. So get each bullet point to work before moving on to the next one. It may be that you don't achieve all the bullet points, but you'll get marks for what you do. Add comments to the code. Show that it's logically structured, and then you will get some marks for that. So that completes the whole of the paper, and the total marks are out of 80. Don't forget to use this in the back, which I should have referred to earlier, but you've always got one of these in the paper 1 and paper 2. You've got this command set here. So I want to say a big thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Please add to the comments. It's always really useful, not just for me, but for other people as well. It's useful to hear what you have to say. Maybe you've taken the exam. What's your feedback on this? So if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe. Share it with people who need it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.